Dear aspiring management consultants, if you're not passing your consulting case interviews, please stop doing these 14 things. Number 1. Now, the first massive mistake is a part of the case interview that nearly everyone overlooks. It is the easiest part of the case interview, but it is a part that no one ever really practices. Stop sounding timid and shy when repeating a summary of the case background information back to the interviewer. This is the very first impression that you'll make on the interviewer, so you need to sound confident. Stop using filler words such as or like. Your case interview synthesis should be confident, clear, and concise. Number 2, the second massive mistake is a part of the case interview where a lot of candidates try to impress the interviewer, but usually the more they try to impress, the more it hurts their performance. Stop asking so many clarifying questions at the beginning of the case interview. You're not going to earn brownie points for asking super specific, super generic, or complicated clarifying questions. The interviewer is just trying to get through the entire case on time, so stop stressing them out by wasting time asking so many questions. Only ask clarifying questions that you absolutely need to know in order to develop a framework. The third massive mistake can be easily prevented with a single sentence. When developing a framework for the case, most candidates ask for a few minutes to structure and gather their thoughts. While this is totally acceptable to do, if you are spending more than 3 minutes in silence, know that you are really stressing out the interviewer. They want to get through the full case on time and may start wondering if you are stuck on something or need help. So, how do you avoid this? It's easy. After 2 to 3 minutes of silence, just make sure to check in with the interviewer and say something like, "I'm just about wrapping up my framework, I'll present it to you shortly." This will break the long moment of silence and relieve any worries the interviewer has about not getting through the entire case. Number 4. The fourth huge mistake is one that 8 out of 10 candidates make. After presenting their framework to the interviewer, most candidates will stare back at the interviewer and wait for them to say something. Instead, take this opportunity to show that you are a proactive problem solver. How do you do this? Pick an area of your framework that you just presented and propose it as an area to further investigate. There's no way for you to know what is the right area to start the case in, but as long as you have a logical reason for why you want to start there, you'll earn major brownie points with the interviewer. Number 5, if you struggle with math calculations, then make sure you are not making this massive mistake. When given a math problem, stop jumping right into the calculations. Always structure your math up front before doing any math. This will significantly reduce the chances of you calculating the wrong thing or hitting a dead end in your calculations. So what do we mean by this? Before doing any math, you need to write out the full equation that you're going to be calculating. By doing this, you can get the interviewer to sign off on your approach. They may also offer some suggestions or feedback to simplify the calculations. Afterwards, the rest of the math problem is just doing simple arithmetic such as adding and multiplying. Number 6. The sixth massive mistake is another mistake that leads to you making unnecessary math mistakes and errors. Stop doing math calculations in silence. You need to talk through every step of your math, no matter how excruciatingly simple it is, in detail. This does 2 things. 1, it lets the interviewer see exactly what you are doing, making it easier for them to jump in and give you help if you get off track. 2, by talking through the calculations out loud, you'll often find yourself catching errors or mistakes that you make. Number 7, the 7th huge case interview mistake is one that separates the newbies from the pros. Don't be a newbie and not structure your answers to brainstorming questions. When asked to brainstorm something, such as a list of costs or a list of ways to increase revenues, most newbies start by saying random ideas that pop into their head. Instead, the pros take an extra 10 seconds and create a simple structure to organize their brainstorming. For example, when brainstorming costs, they'll think of variable costs and fixed costs. When brainstorming ways to increase revenues, the pros will think of ways to increase revenues organically and ways to increase revenues inorganically. Number 8. The 8th mistake is one that we've covered in a previous video on how to instantly get better at case interviews in 2 minutes. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pause the video now and watch it. Number 9. What if I told you there was a way for the interviewer to basically give you the answer? Well, this will never happen if you don't check in with the interviewer. Whenever you give an answer, propose a next step, or lay out an approach, take the extra 5 seconds to ask the interviewer if this makes sense to them. Hopefully, most of the time the interviewer will agree with you and you can move on. But for the times when you're wrong or slightly off, the interviewer will give you some suggestions or feedback. They are essentially giving you the answer. You can then take their suggestions and feedback and modify your answer, your next step, or your approach. This is an easy way to ensure you're always on the right path during the case interview. Number 10. The 10th mistake is one that every single nervous candidate makes. Nervous candidates tend to talk too quickly and they never pause while speaking. This is hugely disadvantageous because pausing while you are speaking allows the interviewer to jump in and cut you off if they want to give you help, discuss something else, or correct something that you said. From an interviewer's perspective, it is hugely annoying to have to wait for a candidate to finish a full monologue before getting the opportunity to jump in. Number 11. The 11th mistake is one that leads to terrible recommendations at the end of the case. Stop jumping right into giving a recommendation. Instead, ask for time to collect and structure your thoughts when giving a recommendation. Taking even 30 seconds to pull together an organized recommendation will at least quadruple the quality of your case summary. Case interviews cover a ton of material, so it makes sense that you'll need at least 30 seconds to make sense of everything at the end of the case. Number 12. Mistake number 12 is one that about half of candidates make. There is a 50% chance that you are making this mistake right now. Stop starting your recommendation with something that is not the ultimate recommendation. A lot of candidates like to restate the case background information or the objective. You don't need to do this. The very first thing out of your mouth when giving a case recommendation should be the recommendation itself. Your case recommendation better start off with something like, I recommend that we do this. Number 13. Mistake number 13 is one that is preventing your case recommendation from getting an A+. Stop delivering an unstructured case recommendation. Your recommendation should sound exactly like this. I recommend that we do this for 3 reasons. 1, 2, 3. For next steps, there are 2 areas I'd like to look into. 1 and 2. Number 14. The last massive mistake is one that a lot of introverts will make. Sorry introverts, you have a huge disadvantage compared to extroverts in case interviews. Stop being emotionless and boring during a case interview. You need to be enthusiastic and passionate. This may come easier for extroverts, but for introverts, you'll need to dial up the enthusiasm to a level of 200% to even match the enthusiasm of an extrovert that is showing 50% enthusiasm. Showing enthusiasm not only shows that you're interested in the type of work that consultants do during the case interview, but it also makes the interview much more enjoyable for the interviewer. Remember, us interviewers are interviewing 8 candidates back to back to back, giving the exact same case. Try to make it somewhat fun or engaging for us. Now let me ask you this. What if there was a way to systematically learn how to solve case interviews step by step so that you can avoid making all of these mistakes? What if you could save yourself hundreds of hours of prep time while also being able to walk into your case interviews with confidence, knowing that you are using the very best strategies and techniques? Well, conveniently for you, our comprehensive case interview course does exactly this. If you're interested, I've linked it in the video description below.